I'm really excited to be here and be here for this very exciting session. My name is Dia. I work as a facilitator and coach, and I work with organizations, leaders, managers, and teams to build skills to become more effective at work through coaching and learning. And I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host Ashi.
Hello everyone, this is Ashi here, Ashi Visaria. I'm life and transformation coach. I have spent 15 years in IT and I'm also an astrologer. If that piques your interest, hit me up with chat.
It definitely piques mine, so I'm going to get in touch with you, Ashi. Thank you. So what are you feeling today, Ashi? One word that describes your sentiment.
Looking at this room, I'm excited.
Okay, and I'm curious. I'm curious to know how this session is going to unfold. Thoughts from you all? One word that you're feeling?
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Wow.
Love that. Anything else? Curious. Okay. Inquisitive. Okay, great. I want you all, before we begin this session, I want you all to raise your hand in the air. Okay, great. Thank you. You can put your hand down. Now, I want you to raise your hand as high as possible. Oh, wow. How did that hand go up even higher? What? Sorry? Stretched yourself. Okay. And what stop? Sorry? Follow the guidelines. Okay. Unsaid guidelines. Sorry? Go out of your comfort zone. So what stopped you from raising your hand as high as possible the first time? Comfort? Cluelessness? And what were the missing dots? And that's what this session is all about. So sit tight on your chairs because we have two powerful industry leaders here who might shake up your perspectives a bit.
So let's welcome Sandip Ghosh. He is Managing Director and Chief Executive of MP Birla Cement. He is a corporate strategist and multi-sectorial track record across several industries. He led complex business transformation and held leadership roles. Beyond boardroom, he is a public speaker on business, policy, and society.
Thank you, Ashi, and welcome, Sandip. Dr. Prajjal Saha is the founder and editor of HR Katha. HR Katha was founded in 2015. Dr. Prajjal has over 3 decades of experience. He writes a lot about leadership, workplace realities, organizational dynamics. Some of his signature initiatives like the Great HR Debate and Rising Star Awards, they are truly thought-provoking. And if you don't follow HR Katha already, I really invite you to follow this premier CEO, CHRO, thought-provoking platform that is shaking the industry up with its content.
Dia,
Welcome.
Welcome, Dr. Prajjal. Dia, before we begin, I have a question. Where do you think coaching is still under-leveraged and where is it impacting the culture of the organization?
I think the audience wants to hear from them now. So over to them. Without any further ado, over to you, Sandip and Dr. Prajjal.
You want to start? So I'll let Prajjal, being the journalist, do the grilling. What I would warn you is that our mandate has been that if this session succeeds, that we should be booed out of the hall. Okay. Because we are trying to, as she said, shake up comfort zones, speak the unpopular truth, and that's how rattle you all so much that you'll be glad that the session is ended. What she forgot to tell in my introduction is I am also a certified PCC, ICF PCC coach, but I would rather say a retired one or a renegade one. So even about ICF, you may not hear very charitable things from me, and you should be prepared for that. Thanks.
See, I have a very outside, an external point of view regarding coaching and leadership coaching and culture. See, my biggest there is no doubt about the fact that, you know, coaching is very important for leadership development. But the question that I have today is that, you know, after the coaching is done, after the development happens, you know, the individual, when he goes back to the system, how does the system respond? Does the system, you know, support in terms of accepting those changes, or the system is, you know, aloof to those changes? The acceptability of that individual and the scale of change is what can make a difference. Sandip, I would want you to start with, you know, say as a CEO of the company, when you send somebody from coaching, what are the things that you look at or your board would looks at so that, you know, that is implemented, executed, and accepted within the organization?
I will put put it in perspective. You know, my understanding of this coaching process, as I mentioned, comes in 3 stages. One is I myself got certified as a coach. For a while I was, so to say, quote unquote, in the market as a coach. I had actually taken formal, just before COVID, I had left my formal job, and I was on a sabbatical, and at that point in time I thought I could use coaching as something, especially during COVID, could be a good, I wouldn't say a pastime, but something more meaningful to give back after having spent 35 years in the corporate world. Thereafter, I have come back somewhat reluctantly to do another few slogovers before I finally call it a day. So at this stage, you might say I am more of a customer when I look at getting coaches in the system. And in some cases, it is not for me. I would like to, by not for me means I don't appoint somebody for some of my direct reportees. It could be my E-team or people who are the senior leaders suggest to them that they could put people into coaching or ask the CHRO to arrange coaching or introduce coaching in this system. So it is a mix of those 2 perspectives, and today, as I say, if I were to actually again hang up my boots and move out and then look at coaching once more as something which I would like to pursue seriously and actively, where my perspective comes from. Now, to get to Prajjal's point, I think the outcome, Prajjal, would depend very much on expectations. Expectations at 3 levels. One is, say, someone is agreeing to send one of their reportees or one of their team members for coaching. What is that person, the boss or the organization, expecting the kind of transformation or something? The second part is, what is this person who's being sent? What is that person's expectation? First of all, whether both are in sync, and also whether there is, I would say, the convergence or buy-in or contracting, as you might say, within your system about the 3 things. Now this becomes very critical, and today I am not too sure if in organizations people, both the coachee and the person who is appointing, are clear about the metrics or what are the key indicators which they will observe to say, hey, coaching has worked out here. And this, as we were discussing before this, Prajjal, it's because organizations in India especially Uh, and this I'm talking in the context of the ICF model, which I believe is a very, very US-centric model where things work in a particular way. And US, as we know, everything is standardized. You know, even the sizes of toilets are follow a standard process and a pattern. In India, things are much more egalitarian, and it changes for, there are different kinds of organizations. There are legacy organizations, there are promoter-led organizations which are at different stages of evolution. You have the so-called more professional organizations, but even within the professional organizations, their approach to HR, etc., varies very widely. And as we know that, you know, even the HR community, if you were to really see common, try to find a common denominator on what they're all convinced about, I don't think we find so much of that, you know, the common platform or common agreement. And so therefore, and then there are few organizations which are, let's say, subsidiaries of multinationals. Now within that you've got two kinds. There are people who have got extended shops, like especially we see in the tech field, where you will be having organizations like Google, Amazon, or whatever. Now they are following similar HR practices in India just as they follow over there. But then you've got organizations, let's say like Unilever. Unilever would not have such a standardized practice between what they do globally or in other countries or even at the headquarters between what they do in India. Each of the subsidiaries, they develop their own, they have their own culture, they have their own pattern. So this is where I think the biggest challenge comes. And that's where I think there is also, if you say connecting the dots, there is sometimes a disconnect as to what is happening. And that is the core element. So when I used to do coaching, I used to do usually at a senior level kind of coaching, I had to actually spend a lot of time not just simply accepting an assignment. I could get an assignment because maybe of my past record, my network or my career, etc. But somebody might give me an assignment, but I had to, even for my credibility's sake, to have, so to say, a return repeat order, I had to make sure that people are very, very clear what they're expecting out of it. Okay. So if you don't have an understanding there, you have a problem. And if there is, you find a disconnect there, you should be in a position to state very frankly that this is not what I can assure. Okay. And this doesn't always happen. And even the coachee may have a very different idea when they're who's being sent for coaching. They might think that, oh, I'm going for coaching because I was denied this promotion this year. After the coaching, I'll be ready for the promotion next year. But that may not be a correlation out there. So to convey that becomes a very, very difficult one. And I'm tempted, sorry, I'll take a minute more to give an example, an unrelated example. And we were talking again about this in the pre-session. I sent my daughter to some sort of an unconventional school. She went to study in the Krishnamurti Foundation School, a sister school of Rishi Valley. And in that, there used to be Dr. Inamdar, who was a very senior educator. And so he said, you know, we can't guarantee the expectations of the parents. If you are bringing your child here thinking that she will become a great scientist, doctor, engineer, we can't give that guarantee. What guarantee we can give you is whatever your child does later in life, they will do reasonably well. But we can't guarantee that. So one lady, I distinctly remember, she raised her hand and she said, but sir, you will agree the ICAC is the ultimate test. So he chuckled, because that school also, interestingly, they never had examinations till class 8, because Krishnamurti thought, you know, examination is an input-output skill which can be taught, but acquiring knowledge, excellence, etc. is different. So till class 8, they never had exam. So she said that, oh, ICAC is the ultimate test. So Dr. Ananda chuckled. He says, I think it's an important test, but I'm not too sure it's the ultimate test. There are many other tests in life which we try to prepare the children for, but it's not necessary that that's the ultimate test. And then he said that don't judge us by the past. Krishnamurti Foundation School have produced many people in different things. Suresh Narayanan, who was a CEO, just retired, stepped down, chairman of Nestle. He was a KFI alumnus. And if you want to know, Aditi Rao Haidari, who is now a sensation in Bollywood, she is also a KFI alumnus. So they have produced like that, but you don't send your daughter to expect they'll become Aditi Rai Haidari, or you send your son thinking that he'll be another Suresh Narayan. So that is, if I were to put it, I went round, the issue on coaching. And this many people are not willing to buy. And that's where you face a gap between delivery and expectations.
Thanks, Sandip. See, you know, when I speak to a lot of HR people in the industry, they generally talk about that, you know, skills are important. So we'll hire, you know, skills will score over degrees, we are giving importance to skills, etc. But ultimately, when you hire people, the evaluation is done in terms of degrees. You are from a premium institute, you are hired. There is no way, the problem is that there are no ways that, you know, you can evaluate skills just doing, you know, an hour of interview. That's the biggest challenge that we face. Why? Because, you know, I'm coming back to that, you know, whatever, and as an organization or a business does, be it investment in terms of reskilling or coaching or leadership coaching, there is always, has to be an outcome. Without outcome or without effectiveness, it doesn't mean anything to the business from, if you see it from a business perspective. What do you think is the biggest challenge today? Is it the effectiveness, the measurement, the outcome? Generally what happens is that, you know, when we talk about coaching, it becomes like, you know, it is very individual led, what Sandip was talking about. What happens is, I have been an expert in certain domain, I have got industry knowledge, or I'm a subject matter expert, then I become a coach and I translate my experiences into coaching. Do we evaluate before, you know, getting into an assignment or taking up an assignment, what exactly the company needs? It is not what we can offer, it is about what the organization needs. That is when I think, you know, there can be a connect between what coaches are trying to deliver and what organizations are trying to gain from it. And that's when I think the cultural fit would come in.
You're absolutely right, Prajjal. You see, the degree part of it, I think, ends soon after the person enters the organization. So that's an entry ticket. You come in because of your whatever qualification you've come. Ultimately, then, as you progress, then the challenge comes in terms of delivery, in terms of impact, what your effectiveness, whatever you're doing. And that's where those questions come up. I'm also an IMA graduate and he's also an IMA graduate. Why is he progressing better than me? What's wrong with me? And, so the coachee or the incumbent may be saying that, and his boss might say, you have this problem. It could be even a problem with skills or something, but this person is not willing to accept. So that is what people have to address. You know, there has to be an identification of the need, the problem, and that's where you go from. Now, this sometimes, as coaches, if we follow the, the copybook, you tend to fail. Because first of all, you think of this whole thing that person has to go through his immersion, come through asking the questions and come up with the answer himself, that yes, I lack the skills. If I were to do this, my skills, I will get there. That may not happen in that manner. And even if it happens, they might expect more active inputs from the coach rather than having those probing questions and just revealing the problem and allowing the coachee to find their own answer. He might say that, yeah, I realize that. He might get his wow moment, or the penny dropping moment that it's not good. But then what? Okay? Now, is the organization willing to follow through then? He says, oh, then I need to actually go and get this training. Now, whether the organization is willing to do that, additional investment, sending them there, or they say, oh, now you've realized what are your problems, so now you do that till you get there. And here what I encountered in my coaching days is the ICF model or whatever tells you that you can coach anybody. You don't necessarily need to have an experience in that industry or that particular line of function, because what you're doing as a coach, you're not counseling, you're not, guiding a person, you're not you're just helping that person discover it. But that's where sometimes a big disconnect happens, because people are also expecting from you something from your own experience in that particular area. And if you try to hold that back, there is an issue. So I would think, going off, I spent a lot of my time in life in the FMCG business. I might go somewhere saying that, no, I'm not going to tell you how FMCG is done. But that person would be asking, hey, you spent so many years in Sunliver, tell me how you guys used to do it there. I want to hear from you. So then that is again a disconnect, or again joining the dots factor which you come in. And when people are looking at appointing coaches, whether you like it or not, even when I do it today, I try to see what is the relevant experience the coach has to get my, help my person. And it need not be necessarily a functional thing. I might sometimes think that, oh, this person requires maybe inputs in behavioral thinking or HR. So it's a person who is coming in, flip back, let's say it's me. If I were going there for a coaching with my years of experience, etc., somebody would say, hey, he is, okay, he's highly experienced, but what I need here is somebody has a psychological background and he has more of an HR thing, and therefore I would prefer someone like that. So, I think you guys heard in the inaugural session Anil Sachdev. He's a typical example of that, whose experience in organization, etc., is very different. So therefore, people who may be wanting a senior level coach, they would go to somebody like Anil. Or I know people in Calcutta right now, there is a Zahid Gangji who was originally ITC. He's an organization behavior specialist and psychology, etc., and plus a whole lot of experience. So organizations appoint him as a coach, even for senior people, because he's able to bring both his insight, experience, plus that ability. He may not get onto your analytical mode or psychoanalyst mode, but he can get you to again give you insights about your behavior or something which makes the transformation happen. And those are real transformation, and that's why you'll find whether a Zahid Gangji, I'm just giving names, or Anil Sachdev or people like them, they may be in greater demand. And that's where the delivery is visible.
So, Sandip, Do you think there is a very thin line difference between the advisor and a coach? Generally, are companies or organizations looking for advisors, in the name of coaches?
I think, in India, people expect a coach to bring onto the table uh, a buffet of uh, expertise. It's not one level of expertise. People have to come with a repertoire or, be a little bit eclectic. So they have to know, and that is what I find at a different level when I've encountered with some who are doing successful coaching practices. I met some of them here as well, I know personally. They actually bring all of that into their offering and need not be on a one-on-one basis. They may be having team members. Somebody, if they have to do testing, they might have somebody who can do your Hogan or MBTI and do a follow-through, or tell somebody that you need to do a 360, and have somebody else who is a 360 expert, or that person herself or himself can become a 360 expert to do it. Or, you have to bring that whole range of experience. So that's what I learned in my days, that I have worked in, I was trained as a chartered accountant, but I worked most of my life in various other jobs and then moved on to senior management and general management. So I had to bring that whole take a very eclectic approach to coaching. And that's where the connect happens with the person. When I then dig into my own internal resources, and as someone was saying, again, one of the popular terms, you bring your whole self into the coaching rather than your just certain tenets or formulations. That's where the difference happens. If you are holding back there because you say, oh, this is not classical coaching, I shouldn't be treading into that area of sharing my experience, of giving some insight, then maybe it remains an incomplete thing. It's a bit like going to a doctor and he says, oh, I'm a right eye specialist, but for your left eye you have to go to another doctor. You expect this person to be able to tell you about both. So that is at least give you the basics of both. And then finally maybe referring you to a specialist to say, in this you require to go to a specialist who will do something more. So you may have to send somebody that, oh, you probably need to go into talk to a therapist or go into some other kind of training there. I can take you up to here, but you identify that problem and that you're able to share with the person who has appointed you, that this is where we have identified the block, and there is a buy-in of that by your coachee, and are you willing to help them? And then they may tell you, okay, who can do that? You could probably be referring to another person, and that's how the process goes forward. But if you leave it at that, then that fellow comes back and people say, oh, not much change, and will question. And what you were discussing earlier, Prajjal, if you have say a promoter-led organization or other thing, a promoter may ask you, even at my level, that what's the ROI if I'm spending X amount on coaching, and if instead of that I would send these people for a short executive program to IIM or somewhere else, what do I get a better output than this?
Thank you. Sandip, we were talking about, different sets of or different kinds of companies that we have in India. We have got a large portion of, large number of, say, US-based companies which follow the US mode of or style of functioning and working. We, unfortunately, we haven't, followed the European style of working till now. US and Europe, they work very differently. We also have a very few, some Japanese companies which are increasing in India, and they have got a very typical way of working, typical leadership style, and which is very different from India and US. And we also have the homegrown companies which operate at a very different level, you know. Do you think the coaching, because in US it is followed, there is a structured method, and you know, it is followed extensively in US. What are the challenges in Indian homegrown companies, or other companies, could be you know, a Japanese set of companies or a Korean set of companies in India?
See, as you said, the Koreans and the Japanese, and to extent some of the European, not all Europeans, like Germans, for example, they have extremely set ways of working, very, very regimented, and they are in their own way. You know, it's almost a template in terms of behavior, in terms of how you work, and you get into the inside the tent only when you qualify on those, and thereafter it's like you are on an escalator moving forward, just like the assembly line system. So there, I don't know of too many Japanese companies. I'm not very informed where they would be using coaches of this kind into it. Europe, as I say, is my understanding, other than Germany. If you were to go to other European countries, companies, they are much more laissez-faire, unless they've appointed again some consultant like McKinsey or somebody who comes and tells them, oh, you need to introduce coaching into the system. That's a different point. The American system is also, I believe, and I've seen some of it in the US indirectly, there is a market for coaching. The need for coaching has been accepted and identified. So there are people there, therefore there is already a market, and they're expecting people to come in there, and they're very clear on the specs, what is to be expected. So it's a bit like, America has, I don't know how many golf courses. So America is a great place for a golf pro, even from India, to go and become a pro out there, because they are looking constantly for people who will be taught that way. So that is India. I think you have to also work on the demand side. And here I think there is to my mind, there is I'm trying to find a euphemistic or a little bit polite term. I think there is a mismatch in terms of the ICF, if I were to call it the business model, is based on producing, giving away certificates. So it is based on the, on preparing coaches or creating coaches. So they are far more onto that mode. That is what the ICF model runs on. So even after that, they will have, my friend Rajat is not here, thankfully. So you have got people like Rajat, or one of my ex-mentors, Ram Ramanathan and all, who are writing, running roaring practices of producing coaches. But at the same time, I don't think there's enough being done to prepare the market for coaching. And since you're producing coaches in such large numbers, I think it is diluting the value of coaching, and it also results in maybe a lot of undercutting, or your everything which is going in, and which is reducing the value of coaching. And coaching tends to become, there is a lot of, therefore, pushed sales, if I were to again use a term, in terms of coaching. So there needs to be a creation of that requirement. How one will go about it, I don't know, but even ICF, the ICF chapters in India, I think they need to also focus much more on that aspect of, how you prepare the market, how you develop the market there, rather than be caught on to the thing of how many certificates are done, or for a chapter, I'm being very blunt, how many members the chapter has got.
You know, I'm coming back to the, you know, in India, we are very fascinated by the term celebrity. And I'm not talking about celebrity in terms of, you know, a sportsman or a film star. Even in every industry, there is a certain celebrity. See, I've spent a large amount of my time in the advertising industry as well. Now, what does an advertising agency do? It sells its services to different companies. So everywhere, you know, and it was in advertising, everybody wanted to work with either a Piyush Pandey or a Prajjal. So, and it could be an homegrown Indian company, it could be a multinational company. If Piyush goes for a meeting, you know, the idea is approved. It is, you know, if, say, a normal or a regular creative director goes, the idea has got a lot of questions, you know, back and forth, this and that. Now, in terms of coaching also, I think there is that rule applies. You know, there are celebrity coaches where everybody wants to work with, and I'm talking about, you know, you go to a company CEO, he said, why are we not working with that coach and that, and why are we working with this coach? If we have to invest in coaching, why shouldn't we go? You know, the price will come in later, you know, whatever is our budget, but why we should first aim there. So I just want to ask the floor, you know, the floor also. What kind of problems do you guys also face when approaching a client? Do you face these kind of problems? How do you cope with it?
I'll allow the floor to speak and then I'll give you my tippani on this situation.
I think that should not be happening because while I know the celebrity coaches is a very important word and there will be that drawing there, but I think coach can be at any level, you know, and therefore the celebrity status really doesn't, it matters for sure, but I think most of the coaches go with their capability of knowing the space of coaching. And they need not be just an expert in that industry or space of, you know, understanding that, because that's the way the coaching is, because otherwise you would be either mentoring or consulting. So therefore, I don't think so, and that's my point of view, that it doesn't really matter. While yes, you may get at a CEO level, there may be a ask for a certain specific kind of a coach, but in general, at all levels, people are encouraged as long as they are able to help the person live to their true potential and be able to ask the right questions, be there with the individual and help him grow and develop. That's how I see it, and maybe I have a different point of view.
Prajjal, to your question, I think it all goes back to saying is whom are we coaching? The challenge is that coaching is not being done the way coaching ought to be done, number one. There is a problem with this person, so we need to coach him. That's where we are going fundamentally wrong. The person who has been successful, granddaddy who actually brings in revenue for the company says, I don't want to be coached. If you want me to coach, you want to coach me, get me Ram Charan. Otherwise, I won't be coached. The problem is there. I think what needs to correct first and foremost is that are we coaching for a shift in behavior which is actually going to impact and grow this person? That transformation, until it does not happen, is not going to work. So I think to a large extent, understanding of the need for coaching is missing in the industry. And it is missing with all HR folks also. They don't understand where coaching is required and where it's not required. They are using coaching as a tool to solve their headache, their problem. And that's why it's not working.
Hi, may I take a shot at it? Yes. Thank you. So this is purely, based on experience. I think, and coaching is not my first career, but I think there is no industry like coaching where reputation is everything. Now, I don't know whether we can equate reputation to being a celebrity, but reputation speaks more than anything else. And it's sometimes shocking the kind of referrals that work here. It's, so again, going back, right? If you're looking at Piyush, I don't know whether we call him celebrity or reputation speaks first, but doors open. You get called into doors before you even realize it. And equally so, the flip side is a little dot on that, and you also get under the radar like nobody's business. I mean, the magnitude of how much the implication of that is far higher. So I think to build that reputation takes a lot, but reputation is very important. And like people ask for coaches, right? I mean, everything else goes out of the window at one point of time. Your credentials, your experience, your everything. There is this image that you are a coach who can be trusted, who can get results. Yeah, so I think it matters a lot, and whether that's right or wrong is a separate discussion. I hear that, Deepika, but that's the reality, and we got to work with that.
I am a HR person myself, leading the agenda for Realme Mobiles, and the main focus of our conversation with business is the ROI. Whenever we deploy a coach, and now I am a coach myself, the first question that business asks us that I am sending my person, what will be the ROI? Because every hour counts, every minute counts. So I'm happy to see that a HR person and a business person who is at a pinnacle of his career and a coach himself is sitting here. And the most difficult question that I face in my career and every day convincing the business is that what will be the ROI? As we know that we are dealing with humans, it's not a switch on, switch off kind of a button, and behavior is not going to change so soon. But very difficult task of me convincing the business that, take a pause, give it some time, and no wonder things will happen. So this is the most difficult challenge that I face. And while we are discussing the celebrity coaches, for us of deploying any coaches to see the past record of how the business has turned, how the ROI has been, and what were the results like. Rather than XYZ or ABC, we do know it doesn't matter. The results matter, and this is what we see while we deploy any coach in our organization.
Comment, or you'll take that first?
I just wanted, there was this comment that HR doesn't understand. Krishnan, your views on that, HR does not understand the requirement from coaches. So you have been on that side.
I think I would say that was a pretty sweeping statement by Chandan. So, having been an HR head myself, a CHRO for 10 years, having got into coaching because I got coaches to help leaders, and very thought through intervention on why we are putting a coach for this person, and like what you very rightly said, total alignment with the CEO and this thing, that and the alignment of the person getting coached, that why are we giving you a coach? I mean, if you don't want the coach, after the chemistry session, you can say no, that's fine. Nothing goes against you. So in evolved organizations where people understand coaching, the process works pretty fine. Now coming back to this question of celebrity coaches, look, everybody, I mean, Anil was my senior in Aisha, I worked with him very closely. Everybody cannot be, I know Zahid also very well. Anil and Zahid and all are obviously celebrities who are in a different league. But they are like, not everybody is of that this thing, and you don't have to be. At the end of the day, you very rightly said, good successful coaches have a bouquet of offerings, which comes from their work experience. Some of them may be doing pure consulting, some of them may be pure, like when I am doing consulting advisory with a client, I don't do coaching in that organization. Because I know the in and out of that organization, I sit in the reviews, I already am operating with a bias. So as a coach, you should not be operating with a bias. Right? So successful coaches have multiple offerings. They decide what fits where. Okay. The problem is, like, to add to what you said, just getting an ICF certification and being an ACC or a PCC doesn't give you the entitlement to do coaching. Because the client looks at what is your body of work. What have you became a coach some 5 years back or 6 years back, great. But in your last 25, 30 years, what is your body of work? What have you done? What is your claim to fame? So ICF accreditation alone cannot be your claim to fame. That is only the icing on the cake. Right? So doors get opened on your body of work, what you have done in the past, the reputation of you carry based on the people you have done coaching for, what they have, because most good clients will tell you, can we have testimonial? Can we talk to people whom you have coached before? So if you're not able to go through all those litmus tests and you don't really have a body of work to talk about, and more importantly, you don't understand business, especially people who are coaches who are not from the business background. Because so these are certain things that I would say. So it's a very bespoke offering. Your network matters a lot. Your body of work in the past matters a lot. Your coaching credibility with your current customers matters a lot. I think that's what I would broadly say.
Sure.
So, sir, when we in corporations, when we look at even capital investment, right? So there's always a defined payback. We look at about 3-5 years horizon. So there is clearly a documented way. Now, and it's a question putting back to that HR lady, because ROI in my view is a very, especially when it comes to coaching, is a very loosely used word. Because to my understanding, a coaching has two dimensions. One is you've got a KR, you've got an IDP set in place, and there's an expectation on results. You want immediate performance, right? So that's one view. So you're not really documenting it, whether the payback you want to have in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. What's that performance leading to? The other part of it is in terms of an organizational direction. So looking at what's coming ahead in terms of the changes in these, let's say, the geopolitical situations. How is the organization looking at ways to maybe look at the culture back again and say, hey, do you need coaching to build a new culture to fit itself in this new world? So yeah, so that was my view, that it's very so ROI is a very loosely used term, and that could be a possible an input to the HR team. Hey, why don't you just be more specific, and have these discussions in the initial contracting stage, right? Then actually
see, HR would sorry, I'm interjecting. You remind me of HR would understand the element of subjectivity. It's not that people are putting in ROI in terms of a very literal sense. I'm reminded of, again, what we use in advertising or marketing, the famous quote of Lord Liverhume on advertising. He said 50% of advertising is wasted and 50% works. The only problem is you don't know which 50% works and which 50% gets wasted. So it would be true for an intervention like coaching as well. But people would like to see the needle move. Okay, they may not try to see the needle move just from tomorrow. But as soon as you finish your 12 sessions or whatever, but over a period of time, let's say in the next assessment season cycle, they would like to, they would notice whether and there would be measures for that, whether it's a 360 degree or whether it is your OKRs or whatever. They would see a difference out there. That is the ROI. ROI is not really how much it's going to the bottom line. And my comment on the celebrity thing is, or what you, so what I didn't get your name, what you mentioned earlier, it's much easier at the top. At the top, what happens is people who have reached the top, or say a CXO level or something, there is, at that stage, as they say, life at the top is lonely. And you realize yourself that there are certain areas you need to improve and you need help. And at that stage, if you are senior enough to ask for that help, you are free to ask for that particular help. Or the CEO himself. The CEO himself once realizes that, okay, I need to change either my style because it's different environmental situation we're working in or whatever, And so there it's much easier, and there the question of credibility and these things occur, because then they would probably ask some of their peer groups or try to figure out from even their CHRO who you think I could be doing, because there is that element of confidentiality and with whom you feel free to talk. So there the credentials of that nature does work. But the catch-22 is this. Precisely when I was doing coaching, I knew that my people who are giving me calling me to be a coach were not calling me for my ICF credential. The ICF credential only told them that I'm probably serious about coaching. I'm not this thing. But they were taking me for my, as you said, my body of work or whatever they knew over there. But the catch-22 there is, they would take me for somebody very senior, because I would also not dilute my fees or whatever for that. But they would not, neither would they like to invest that much, say, for a middle manager or somebody down the line. And neither would I like to do that over there, unless it's a different format of coaching, etc. So there you get into this whole bind. So if you're getting coaches at that level, and if you're seeking, there you might be getting somebody who doesn't bring so much of experience on the table or so much of relevant this thing. So how do you adjust that? So these are things, that's why I talked of the question of preparing creating the market. There has to be a lot more effort to create that awareness and buy-in, rather than release more coaches in the system. Then that will, I think, dilute the entire profession in a way.
Thank you, Sandip. Thanks a lot. As this honest conversation being held by leader, HR, and coach himself has actually unfolded something different. We have a ground which is unsettled, more to explore. And my strongest takeaway, which is about the missing dots here, is syncing that goal between the organization and the people to get the real output, which he spoke about the metrics, is where the real success of the coaching lies.
Thank you, Ashi. I think lots of perspectives for everyone to take from. So I don't want to I'm sure you've all had a different perspective. So thank you so much, Dr. Prajjal and Sandip. We'd like to please call upon Vijay and Mr.
Can I ask another question if it's okay?
We have a short time. We can always have a conversation.
Over lunch?
Can we have a conversation later over lunch?
Of course. Yeah. So lunch is going to be on the ground floor, also outside, and I'm sure you get some time to meet them as well then. Yeah. So if I could please invite Vijay and Mr.